our State House studio in Montgomery. I'm Todd Stacy. Welcome to Capitol Journal. This week, a special episode of Capitol Journal. We'll go on location to Birmingham for the Innovate Alabama State of Innovation celebration. Alabama had never had a statewide public-private partnership focused on entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. That has now changed with Innovate Alabama, which has celebrated its first year of awarding grants to small businesses, nonprofits, and municipalities, all aiming to develop talent and spur growth. Governor Kay Ivey first established the Alabama Innovation Commission in July of 2020, tasking some of Alabama's top political and business leaders with producing a plan to create a more resilient, inclusive, and robust economy through innovation. That commission delivered its final report to the governor in 2021, and with the enactment of House Bill 540, Innovate Alabama was established, a standalone corporation working to help entrepreneurs grow roots here in the state. From the beginning, Alabama partnered with the Hoover Institution at Stanford University and its director, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, to examine the innovation ecosystem here in Alabama and recommend policy solutions. In its first year, Innovate Alabama has allocated $43 million in capital, established 51 network partnerships, awarded 52 supplemental grants, and created 192 jobs throughout the state. Some of the state's top political and business leaders recently gathered in Birmingham for an award ceremony and celebration of Innovate Alabama's first year. We were given unique access to this event, including interviews with Dr. Rice, Senate President Pro Tem Greg Reed, State Finance Director Bill Poole, and Innovate Alabama CEO Cynthia Crutchfield. Those interviews later in the show. But first, let's go to Capitol Journal's Randy Scott, who reported from the event and caught up with some of those leaders.
Welcome to the State of Innovation seminar in Birmingham. It features a large number of people representing all facets of Alabama, from business to educators to politicians. All are here to see what can be done through innovation to improve the state.
Since we created this Innovation Commission, then the Innovative Corporation, the state of Alabama has been moving forward. We're seeing millions of dollars have gone to small, innovative business, trying to build a new ecosystem of economy for the state of Alabama.
Guests got the chance to take part in a discussion and Q&A session featuring Alabama native and former U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. Some were also honored for the steps they've taken to be innovative leaders in Alabama.
What I really loved here today was when Dr. Rice talked about the importance of innovation, the importance of entrepreneurship, the importance of the knowledge-based economy to the future of every citizen of Alabama, and how important it is that we can inspire every child to dream.
Gordon Stone is the executive director of the Higher Education Partnership of Alabama and the mayor of the town of Pike Road near Montgomery. Both entities were honored for their innovative work to help citizens and the state move forward.
Whether it's in our towns and cities, whether it's what we do at our universities to try to fulfill those dreams, and what an inspirational day to see all of these network recipients. We're so honored to receive awards and be a part of this network that's going to go out there and help turn those dreams into realities, educate those people to fulfill those dreams, and make Alabama the best place it can possibly be.
Part of moving forward will focus on education and state resources, a topic Dr. Rice and others agree on.
Who knew that our natural resources, just the beauty of the state, the mountains, the beaches, the water, the forest, all the recreational opportunities in the state would be really something that would be so attractive to this entrepreneur industry that wants to have a quality of life.
Seeing how we're going to retain students, how K through 12 with math and science, all the things that we need to have a robust system for innovation and technology. And at the end of the day, we want people to come to Alabama. We want to be pro-Alabama. And so this is a great step in innovation and technology and being able to cultivate all the things that are coming in this 21st century.
Senator Singleton says now's the time to get the innovation ball rolling.
So the state of Alabama has to create policy. We have to make sure that we are creating new innovations where young minds could be deployed to be able to bring it out. So the state of Alabama is taking a step forward to say that we want to continue to look out of our windshield and not in our rearview mirror.
For Capital Journal, I'm Randy Scott.
We'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online at video.aptv.org. Capital Journal episodes are also available on APTV's free mobile app. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page. And you can listen to past episodes of Capital Journal when you're driving or on the go with Capital Journal podcasts. Keep up with what's happening with Capital Journal.
The State of Innovation celebration featured a fireside chat with Alabama native and former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. Here's a portion of that discussion, followed by my sit-down interview with Dr. Rice.
Will you share your insights in terms of how you became involved in this effort, the Hoover Institution's role in this effort, which was so critical to the success and the work of the Innovation Commission, and how you perceive this effort at this point?
Clearly, this is not just going to have legs, it's really going to have an impact, and it's already had an impact, so congratulations to that. So I grew up in Birmingham until I was 12. We moved to Denver, and so when I got a call from Governor Ivey saying, we have this Commission on Innovation in which would you serve, I said, well, you know, Governor, I haven't lived in Alabama for a while. And she said, well, that's okay, because, you know, you're from Alabama, you're always from Alabama. And so I thought, well, that's true. So I was delighted to be a part of it. And I had just about a year before that become director of the Hoover Institution. And for those of you who do not know, the Hoover Institution is a policy institute, a policy think tank of about 40 very senior academic researchers, think tenured faculty, also people, many of whom are jointly appointed at Stanford, as I am, for instance. It's the entire organization's about 300 people, and we are actually a unit of Stanford University. But we do research on policy issues. And one of the innovations that we've made recently is to add to our already considerable work on national security, on the economy, on K-12 education, on technology, as you might imagine, because of where we sit, a state and local practice. Because we believe that a lot of the innovation, a lot of the economic development has to take place at the state level. There are things Washington can do, but what it takes to innovate in Alabama or California or Texas or Delaware is different. And so the states are going to be the locality, the level of government in which that's done.
This effort was initiated in July of 2020. It's been 3.5 years, and we had the benefit of kind of hearing an overall briefing of all of the efforts and the outcomes and results that have occurred to date. I enjoyed the presentation, and I know others did as well. Share with us, if you will, your thoughts. What did you take away from that? What were your opinions as to the measurements of success, and maybe the biggest wins to date in your mind?
Well, I am just blown away by what has been accomplished since Innovate Alabama was formed. I'm blown away, too, at the focus, the way that out of what could have been just to kind of see of things that you might do, there's been really a focus on how to take those commission recommendations and really put legs under them so that they begin to move. And what's remarkable to me is that you've really made progress along every one of them, not by just kind of standing back and saying, okay, let's put together a plan, but by really engaging partners, really great collaboration, recognizing, I think it was you, Cynthia, that said you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to take the wheels and pull them in the same direction. And so that to me has been perhaps the biggest win.
One thing that surprised everybody during the the Innovation Commission's work was outdoor recreation came up every single meeting, and nobody saw that coming.
Yes.
None of us thought we would be talking about trails and biking and birding and everything else within the context of the Innovation Commission and retaining and recruiting talent. That's sourced in large part from Steve Haber, a fellow at the Hoover Institution that you've mentioned, but it really opened a lot of eyes and created a lot of excitement. Why do you think that outdoor recreation is such an opportunity and an asset for Alabama?
Well, I have to admit, when Steve said to me that that was going to be his contribution, I also said, what? What's that about? But he had actually done some work on this. He's a cyclist. He'd done some work on this. And attracting the, I never say young anymore. I just say that it's, they haven't had much time since degree is the way that we say it now, to keep from being ageist. But these folks really value their lives as well as their livelihood. They value being able to be in the outdoors and to explore. They hike. You know, my godsons who are just out of college, they hike, they fish, they love to be in the out of doors. And Alabama has incredible natural endowments, whether it's the beautiful lake structures or the beautiful hiking trails or the rock formations. These are really attractive to younger folks who want to come, and of course they want good schools. There's a lot that they want, but they also on the weekend or for a vacation, they want to have to not go very far and have access to these beautiful natural endowments. And so developing them, making sure that they're easy to access, that they have good markings. Steve did mention that he got lost along one of the trails. And he said he could tell he was very far from where he was supposed to be, but he just didn't know where that was. He said, thank goodness, two nice people came along and said, you look lost. And he said, this boy from New York suddenly realized that people in Alabama are just really nice.
And joining me next is former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. Dr. Rice, they're applauding for you again. Thank you for coming on Capitol Journal.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be with you.
You talked a lot on stage about being from Alabama,
yes,
being from Birmingham. Your career has taken you literally all over the world to the highest levels of government. So why is it important to now in your career to be a part of Innovate Alabama and give back in the way that you are?
Well, Alabama was so important in my life. I left as a child, but my parents were born here, my grandparents, and so I feel I'm honoring them in some way by helping Alabama to become even better than it is. It was a place that I grew up. It was a place that was very different when I grew up here in the late 1950s and the early 1960s. And it also, for me, is just evidence of how different a place can be and how it can move forward. And so for all those reasons, I'm just excited to be a part of this effort.
It is an exciting effort. And I really wanted to ask you about the Hoover Institution. I really should have introduced you as the director of the Hoover Institution at Stanford University. And I know that when Innovate Alabama got started, and your involvement was announced, also the Hoover Institution involvement was announced. That's really exciting. It was a signal of how serious this effort is.
Yes.
So talk about the Hoover Institution, its origins, and sort of its mission.
The Hoover Institution is an institution within Stanford University, so it's the Policy Institute at Stanford. It has about 300 plus people, 40 of whom are very senior academic researchers who work on education. They work on the economy, they work on national security, and increasingly we work on state and local issues. When Governor Ivey asked me to work with the commission, she recognized that I'd become director of the Hoover Institution, and so we were able to draw on the research that's been done about how you attract innovation to a locality or to a state. What kinds of tax policies, what kinds of business incentives, what kind of educational policy, and as it turns out, what kind of outdoor lifestyle do you need to do that? And so at Hoover, we like to think that our sound academic research can contribute, as President Herbert Hoover, our founder, said, to the betterment of the human condition. He believed that a place that was dedicated to limited government, individual liberty, and private enterprise could make a difference. And so we go from those values to do the best research that we can to deal with the world's most difficult problems.
So when you see the work of Innovate Alabama, the board today, how would you rate its progress so far, measuring it kind of against the Hoover Institution's original report?
Well, I am blown away by how much has been achieved, really, because the Commission's recommendations, of course, then created Innovate Alabama to give it legs, to give it staying power. I've said I have been on a lot of commissions where the report ended up on somebody's dusty bookshelf. This is clearly not the case here. Under the leadership of this board and Cynthia Crutchfield, what you've gotten is programs are already in place. They're already moving out. And it's just going to be amazing to see what they do in the future, because they've already done. And the centering it around important pillars like talent development and access to resources for entrepreneurs. And then finally, the lifestyle, attract people to Alabama because it's a great place to live. This is going to be a set of initiatives that will last for a long, long time.
Well, yeah, it's fun to think about years in the future. What will be, you were talking about AI, and we wouldn't even been talking about that 18 months ago.
18 months
so
ago, right.
It's fun to imagine what the new things are going to be about tomorrow.
Yes, it is, and I imagine Alabama right at the center of it. This is a place that has tremendous engineering talent, for instance, in Huntsville, or tremendous biotech. You look at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. We're sitting not too far from there now. So the talent is here on the research and innovation side. It's organizing the entire ecosystem around that so that K-12 education is producing kids who can do STEM work when they go to college, so that the universities are training the students but keeping them here in Alabama, that you're getting for people who may not even do a four-year degree, really good skills development and training. And another point that I always make is those skills are going to keep changing over time. The skills of 2023 are not going to be the skills of even 2026, so you have to keep training people and upskilling them. But what's really impressive here at Innovate Alabama is the degree of collaboration between all aspects of society. It's very, very exciting.
Well, while I have you, as the former Secretary of State, I have to have some foreign affairs questions.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous world out
It is.
there,
It
and you've described yourself as a student of Russia when you were, in the White House at State. That was when the Israel-Gaza deal was
I'm a veteran of
brokered.
Gaza conflicts.
So you have unique perspective on both of these conflicts. You were talking about on stage about not necessarily needing to focus on that so much as ourselves.
Yes.
Talk about that, because how do we think about this international situation, and do we need to concentrate more on America?
I believe that the United States of America is essential to a peaceful and prosperous world. Just do the thought experiment. Is there any other country that you would rather have leading in the world? And so we have to keep our leadership role. We have to have the will to stand by our allies and help Ukraine after the horrible attack, a country that wanted to extinguish Ukraine. We can't allow that to happen. But in order to do that, we have to be a confident country, too. And that confidence comes from every American believing that they've got a part of the American dream, that they've got a part of a future with a good job and a part of the innovation economy. So the two are connected in my mind. I worry about us because I don't think we're delivering for too many of our citizens, but we can. We know how to do it. We know how to give people skills. We know how to educate people. We know how to create good jobs. And that's why an effort like Innovate Alabama is not just important for Alabama, it's important for the United States of America.
We recently lost giant in the foreign affairs space, Henry Kissinger.
Yes.
And so I wondered your thoughts about him. Maybe do you have a favorite Henry Kissinger story? Everybody's got some.
Yes. Well, Henry was a great friend as well as a mentor, colleague, and a patriot who I think will stand as one of the greatest secretaries of state of all time. He had the most wonderful sense of humor. He loved his adopted country. He was born, of course, in Germany. But one thing I'd like people to know about Henry Kissinger is that at 100 years old, when he turned 100 years old, until just a few weeks before his death, he was still traveling around the world, China. I saw him in Tokyo a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Because he loved being out there and knowing people. He also kept learning. Henry Kissinger wrote a book with Eric Schmidt about AI and the future of AI.
At close to 100
I think he
years
would have
old,
been
yeah.
about 98 years old
Wow.
when they wrote that book. And so what set him apart, as well as my great friend we lost not too long ago, George Shultz, is that these were people who came out of that greatest generation that won World War II, but they never stopped caring. They never stopped working. They never stopped learning. And that's a lesson for all of us.
Absolutely. Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your involvement in this very important effort.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
All right. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Innovate Alabama, where every day we help innovators grow roots. We are cultivating a brighter future by empowering our next generation through internships, tech showcases, and proactive programs. We encourage higher education students to embrace entrepreneurship. Sponsored programs like Fuel Alabama and the HBCU Innovation Experience highlight our state's position as a postgraduate destination. In 2024, we're focused on transforming K-12 educational opportunities and focusing on rural outreach to retain emerging talent.
We're driving innovation in Alabama through expanding access to the resources innovators need. In the last 10 months alone, we've deployed nearly $50 million through grants and tax credits to our accelerators, economic development organizations, and small businesses emerging through cutting-edge research. We're accelerating our impact by launching Alabama's largest public funding program for small businesses ever, infusing nearly $98 million statewide through the State Small Business Credit Initiative. This is a game changer for Alabama's entrepreneurial landscape.
We're leveraging our state's natural beauty to create a vibrant, diverse innovation ecosystem. We're introducing tools to connect innovators with their communities and the outdoors, ensuring an unparalleled way of life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, an innovator, or along for the ride, you will find the supportive community and the resources to thrive here. Together, we're shaping a future that's brighter, more innovative, and uniquely Alabama.
From nurturing homegrown talent to attracting out-of-state businesses and investors, Alabama has made significant strides, and it is in large part thanks to you. So I say again, thank you. And your work isn't just about some far-off future. You're making things happen right here and now. You're promoting STEM education and entrepreneurship in our state's HBCUs. You're supporting startups and accelerators. In fact, That happens right here at Innovation Depot. You're developing vibrant tech hubs with all the right resources. You're ensuring Alabama is a place where Alabamians can not only dream, but they can achieve these dreams. I'm immensely proud of the collaborations and partnerships forged by Innovate Alabama over the course of the last 12 months. Now, as we move into 2024, I am proud today to proclaim that today, December 14th, 2023, is Innovate Alabama Day.
And believe it or not, there's some folk in this room who I would consider the choir, that we know the importance of the buzzword innovation. But as a matter of fact, if I'm being honest, here in Birmingham, innovation is not just a buzzword. It's part of our DNA. We have well-established organizations in this room, organizations who are committed to the cause of helping emerging companies and businesses and risk takers and entrepreneurs realize and grow their potential. But that can work and that can be accelerated with the assistance and support of Innovate Alabama.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page.
Joining me next is State Finance Director Bill Poole, who's the chairman of the board of Innovate Alabama. Bill, thanks for coming on Capital Journal.
Sure, thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, well, thank you for letting us be a part of this event. I think it's really interesting and great to be able to share with our audience. I wanted to first ask you about Innovate Alabama, just the genesis. How did this, what exists now, how did it really get started?
Well, I think it goes back to about 2018 or 2019, and we were all at that time thinking about the future economy and what can we do to make Alabama more competitive. And through some conversations amongst legislators and Governor Ivey's office, Governor Ivey really led the charge and understood the necessity and importance of this opportunity to think about how do we have a strategy to grow our technology, research, and entrepreneurial sector of our economy. We have a lot of economic development tools across the state of Alabama, but we really don't focus on that area, and it's very different than our industrial recruitment mechanisms, very different animal altogether. So she created in July of 2020 the Innovation Commission, which brought together public and private leaders from across the state, but we also formed an advisory committee of Alabamians who are leaders elsewhere in our country. So we heard tonight from one of those, Condi Rice, who's just a phenomenal leader, and she's been integral to our effort. But through those conversations, a final report was issued that made a number of, I think, really well thought out and researched recommendations. The legislature understood and saw those recommendations, with the governor's leadership and the leadership of the legislature authorizing legislation passed to create Innovate Alabama to bring all of those recommendations into fruition. And what is really unique about it is it's a public-private partnership. We have private sector members partner with public leaders to carry forward this mission. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of progress. We have a long way to go, but this is an area that's critical for the state's future.
It has to be gratifying to nights like tonight to see these awards, to see these grantees talking about their success stories and seeing some fruits born out of those years of development.
Yeah. Well, and these grantees are rural towns. They are small business owners. They are Alabamians that have great ideas who have proven to have commercial value. They're innovators. They are institutions of higher ed. So these awardees represent the fabric of Alabama, and within this context, the fabric of our innovation network. And that's part of what we're trying to create, is a network of collaboration and an ecosystem for this sector of our economy to be successful, not only in Birmingham and Huntsville, but in every other corner of the state, in Dothan, in Mobile, and you name the community, Gadsden, Muscle Shoals. there is opportunity for every Alabamian in this sector of economy, and this is the future economy, that technology is going to accelerate. Existing industries and job bases are going to be disrupted. How is Alabama positioned in that regard? Are we going to be a leader, or are we going to be a follower as those economies shift?
Yeah. Well, you put on your reporter hat earlier tonight and interviewed Condoleezza Rice. That's pretty exciting. Of course, you know, we had her here on the set as well. It was tough for me to prepare for my interview, but you seem very comfortable with it. It seems like y'all have, you know, a good relationship. And is that from time spent on the board and her being back here in the state?
It is. So Condi agreed early on to be a part of the Innovation Commission. She was one of our advisory council members. She attended, and a lot of those were by Zoom. We were in the pandemic period. She participated directly and attended throughout the process. And she told me on several occasions, and I was really proud of her for saying it, but more proud of her for doing it, that she was going to stay engaged throughout the Innovation Commission's work, but that she was going to stay engaged even after that. And she stayed engaged in Alabama in a lot of ways, but this is a way that she can really contribute to our thought processes. She can bring resources and perspectives to the table. She can bring encouragement and guidance, and she has continued to do that. And it's just a real honor, a real privilege to have her participate, but also she is somebody that can validate what we're doing to move Alabama forward through this effort, and I think that may be kind of the icing on the cake.
So we're here tonight at this award ceremony, the reception, the fireside chat, but I know y'all had a big day at the Innovation Depot with the board meeting. Talk about what went on earlier today for Innovate Alabama.
So it was an exciting day. We reconvened and pulled back together the original membership of the Innovation Commission and Advisory Council, because when the report was issued in, I guess, about October of 21, that ended the work of the Innovation Commission. As the executive order dictated, the commission disbanded effectively at that point. So the Innovate Alabama as an entity was subsequently created. A board of directors was formed. But this was an opportunity to bring back those original members who contributed to the foundation for this effort, to not only thank them, but to brief them extensively on what has happened, what has occurred today, and what is on the horizon. So it's really exciting to see some of them, and here again, to receive their thoughts and inputs in terms of where we are and the successes, but also it's time to keep working.
Yeah. Well, you've got some of Alabama's largest companies as sponsors of Innovate Alabama and events like this. It was interesting to hear the CEO of Protective Life talk about, you know, it's important to them as a corporate citizen to support efforts like this, because kind of a rising tide lifts all boats. Talk about that corporate support and why that's so important.
Well, I think that support, and it's not just corporate support, we're seeing it across a lot of sectors, but within this context, it's the recognition that a rising tide does lift all boats. And the competition of the future is going to be over talent. Where are the talent bases around our country that companies can access to be successful? And what that also creates is opportunities for our citizens and those talented, Alabamians to be successful. So I think it's a recognition that we have to retain talent, and we have to recruit talent, and we have to grow our economy.
Yeah. So it makes business sense.
Yeah, well, it does make business sense, but it makes business sense not only in Birmingham and Huntsville. As I mentioned, it makes sense across our state.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on the legislative session. It's really just a couple of weeks away if you think about it. So putting your finance director hat on for a minute, when might we see some budget proposals? You're talking with the legislature. Y'all are preparing essentially a budget proposal to propose the second day of session.
So the fiscal year ended at the end of September, so as soon as that fiscal year turns, a lot of work really begins in earnest. So we've been engaged, we've met with every state agency, board, commission to hear their needs and receive their budget requests. We've had communications with legislative leadership, the budget chairman in both houses, working with them to understand what are priorities in everybody's eyes. Because at the end of the day, the more that the leaders of our state collaborate and share those perspectives, it will lead to better outcomes for our citizens. So the budgeting process from a formation standpoint from the executive branch is well underway, but in concert, in collaboration with legislative leadership. And as you mentioned, when the session begins, the governor will introduce her proposed budgets to the legislature. Then the legislature will take those up for consideration, and we'll insert additional items and priorities of members as they should. And I've participated in that process from the legislative side. So I look forward to that process as always.
Last year was such a crazy budget year because you had all this federal money, or receipts from a lot of the federal money, unprecedented. If what y'all are seeing now, is it going to be a little more back to normal in terms of growth?
I think what we're seeing is a return to normal. We're not there yet. There's still a lot of artificial factors that are propping up revenues. I don't like that in a lot of ways. But I think what it calls for is calm, discipline, and conservative approaches to budgets. Because
a lot of rainy day accounts and stuff like that.
But we have to be very careful, because as revenues return to normal growth levels, we cannot have made mistakes that have been made in the past, which is create new programming that we cannot sustain in future budgets. And that's going to be a difficult fact. A lot of agencies, including education, the pandemic federal money is winding down. So a lot of funding they've relied on is drying up, and the state cannot step into those shoes. We don't have the capacity, nor could we sustain it. So there are still challenges, by and large, driven by a lot of the artificial factors in our economy, but we are returning to more normalcy, which I think will stabilize our budgets and create a better environment from a sustainability standpoint.
Well, we'll look forward to it. Well, congratulations on this event and on the successful development of Innovate Alabama, and thanks for letting us be a part of the event.
Well, thank you so much. This is an important effort for the future of Alabama, and I think it's a very unique effort, and I really commend the governor and the legislature for embracing this and supporting it and leading it. So I think everybody has a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, there you have it. We'll be right back.
When the Soviet Union successfully launched Sputnik in October 1957, the United States needed to quickly join the space race. Werner von Braun, head of the U.S. space program at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, suggested using a modified Redstone rocket to President Eisenhower. The resulting rocket, Juno, launched Explorer 1, America's first satellite into orbit, on January 31, 1958. The satellite remained in space until 1970.
You're watching Alabama Public Television.
And joining me next is State Senator Greg Reed, the President Pro Tem of the Alabama Senate. Senator, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Todd. It's a little different setting than our normal visit.
That's right. We're doing this kind of roadshow thing. We're doing Capitol Journal on location, but this is fun. And I think it's important to highlight events like this and really dive deep into issues. So we've enjoyed it. Plus, we got to interview Condoleezza Rice, so that's pretty cool.
Hey, wow.
Talk about the importance of events like this. You got a front row seat for that fireside chat. What were some of your takeaways?
Well, first off, I can say Dr. Rice and her dedication as a daughter of Alabama to be back in Alabama and all the things she's done to help support us with the commission, the advisory council, her time here today. She's dedicated to Alabama's growth and economic prosperity, and I just could not be more pleased with her involvement. She's a wonderful lady, so incredibly accomplished. So I'm excited to be with her today and her to help us celebrate what Innovate Alabama is doing.
Yeah.
When she talked about a lot of the issues that were brought up by Director Poole, you could tell she's so learned and such a treasure for America in what she knows and understands about, international politics and world affairs.
Right.
At the same time, all of what she described as kind of the DNA of Stanford University and looking at innovation, economic growth, Silicon Valley, and what all has happened, and the fact that she can relate much of that to things that are happening and going to happen as a result of Innovate Alabama right here in our own state.
Yeah. Well, you were the author of the legislation that created the Innovation Commission, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty interesting. That was back in 2018, 2019?
That's right.
Yeah. So it's got to be interesting for you to kind of, these years later, see kind of it bear fruit with Innovate Alabama. Talk about that, the perspective of seeing it grow.
Well, it's a wonderful thing. You're right. A lot of times we work on legislation or we work on projects, and we really don't see exactly what happens in the end with a lot of them. Sometimes we do, but this is a great opportunity tonight as we're celebrating. We saw all of these companies, one after another that were all receiving awards, that were a part of the network, telling stories today. We've heard stories all day today on, I hired 10 people, I hired 5 people, we got a $20 million contract from the U.S. government, this happened, that happened. All as a result of what Innovate Alabama has been working on, the grant programs, which are just small grants in comparison, but to help these entrepreneurs bridge from one spot to the next in being able to accomplish the growth of their business. And that was one of our goals from the very beginning. To see all of that come to pass, it's a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah. Well, when people tune into politics, so much of it is partisan, right? When they turn on cable news or whatever. But when it comes to economic development, I've noticed in the Alabama legislature, it is a very bipartisan issue. Y'all seem to work very well together. You had the game plan last year. You have this innovation. Talk about the nature of bipartisanship when it comes to economic development, innovation like this, and why that's so important.
Well, I think it's important to all of the legislative members because it's so important to Alabama. I mean, there's a lot of things that we'll disagree on. We'll have legislative topics that, you know, the Republicans don't agree with the Republicans a lot of times, or certainly the Republicans and the Democrats, and North and South, and all of that's part of the process, and that's fine. But when it comes to economic development and ways to grow Alabama's economy, that impacts every legislator. It impacts every person in Alabama. We want to work for topics in rural Alabama, issues for urban Alabama, broadband internet access that gives you options for the economy to continue to grow. When you look at what Innovate Alabama is doing in preparing our state for what's going to be the economy of the future, the knowledge-based economy, high-tech opportunities, retaining talent, being able to have super well-trained workers, all those things are beneficial for every area of the state. So therefore, all legislators are interested, and it makes it great to where we can work on a common theme. We may not agree on every piece of it, and that's healthy. You get a better product when you listen to everybody and get their input. But I think we've seen a true bipartisan approach on economic development topics for years now, and it's important.
Well, does it help to have, you know, success like this? Because sometimes you might vote on legislation, maybe a younger lawmaker, a newer lawmaker, voting on legislation, trying to say, what does this do? What is this going to do? But does it help to point to success like this and say, see, you can't see it now, but 5 years from now, this is going to really bear fruit. It's going to be really important. So do events like this and success like this help you sell other proposals?
Well, it does. I mean, what do legislators want? What do I want as a legislator? Number one, I want to be able to allocate and appropriate resources and stand up programs that are going to be beneficial for people in my district and for the whole state. And I want an accountability to know that when we make those decisions, they're going to be successful. And when they are, I want to know about it. I think that's what we're doing with Innovate Alabama. We've been at this for 3.5 years. The legislature has put its money where its mouth is. They've allocated resources to allow us to support businesses like this and grow this program. And now we're seeing great results out of the program in just a 3.5-year window. And when you're able to go back to your colleagues and say, thank you for your help, thank you for your support. I know that was an idea that was not something that you thought about, but you were willing to listen to me. And now as a result, here are the statistics. It worked, and it's going to be better as time goes along. That makes it real easy the next time you're looking to offer a request for allocation for topics like Innovate Alabama. The legislative members are going to be willing to move forward with it because they know it's had success.
Well, we've got a legislative session coming up. It'll be here before we know it, really just in a couple of weeks. How have y'all's meetings been with the caucus? What issues could we expect maybe early on in the session to see legislation moving on?
Well, I think that we've done a lot of preparation. I was pleased to have some discussions with the majority leader and others talking about our planning has been sooner this year. If you think back to the first year of the quadrennium last year, we had the elections and then the inauguration, organizational session, a lot of things going on, and then, wow, we were ready for the first session of the new quadrennium. We've been able to plan some more this year, and I think that's wise. I think that you're going to see some legislation that's been well thought out. I think there are going to be several elements here. There may be some elements that were very important to legislators that we did not deal with last year. That may in some ways be deemed controversial, but some topics associated with elections, issues associated with school choice, some of those issues we maybe hear about again. I think there's going to be more economic development news. There's going to be more economic development opportunities to where we're adding things to the game plan and being able to take the next step, and a lot of that's being developed now. And I think the thought that that's going to be important, again, more of a bipartisan kind of an approach. And then we've got a great economy in Alabama. That's yielded great budget receipts. So we're going to have some additional surpluses and carry forwards in the budget. We're going to have to decide what to do with those. And so that's going to be real important. So it will be a very busy session with a lot going on right from the get-go.
Well, you mentioned the new majority leader, and we had Mr. Livingston on the show a couple weeks ago. So, you had the departure of Clay Schofield to BCA. So, great gig. Nothing but congratulations there. But that creates new leadership opportunities for others. Obviously, Mr. Livingston runs and wins majority leader, but you also had some committee assignments that you got to help other senators with their leadership positions. Talk about that.
Well, we had several openings that were created by some of that moving around. I certainly congratulate Senator Livingston. Steve's a good friend of mine, and we work great together. And have been working, planning on a lot of things for the session. You wound up with an opening in confirmations, which is an important committee. April Weaver is going to be the chair of confirmations. You've got some things moving on redistricting. We're going to be needing to make a change there, and we've got a senator in mind. He'll have to be elected by the body that's going to be able to take that role now that Senator Livingston has moved on to be the leader. You've got some other committees. We've got another senator, Senator Kelly, added to the Rules Committee. Right. Senator Gavan added to the Education Budget Committee, which was something important to him.
Those are big roles.
Big roles. And so we've got members that are moving around. We've got a great group of senators, just a great group of men and women that are dedicated for all the right reasons to serve in government, and to give them more responsibility and to have the ability as president to give them more chances to do the things that they do so well is rewarding. And I know they'll do a great job. We're better prepared than we were before with them in these new roles. Moving forward, things change. That's the only constant, is change. So be ready to deal with it, make proper adjustments, and we have, and are ready to move forward to have a great session.
You've been majority leader before. Did you have any advice for Senator Livingston?
I told Senator Livingston his telephone was going to ring quite a bit more, and he has already let me know that I was exactly right.
I bet. That is not an exaggeration. Well, we look forward to session. We'll talk more as it approaches, but thanks again for taking the time.
You're welcome, Todd. Glad to do it.
We'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online at video.aptv.org. Capital Journal episodes are also available on APTV's free mobile app. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page. And you can listen to past episodes of Capital Journal when you're driving or on the go with Capital Journal podcasts.
And joining me next is Cynthia Crutchfield, CEO of Innovate Alabama. Cynthia, thanks for coming on Capital Journal.
Thank you for having me.
And really, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this event. It's really been a neat event to be a part of. Got to interview Condoleezza Rice, and it's just a neat event, so thanks for letting us come. So you've been CEO now for about a year, is that right?
For just over a year. I started on the 1st of December in 2022.
Okay. So talk about the challenge of taking on this CEO role? Because this is a brand new organization. I'm sure there are others like it nationally, but it's a brand new organization that had to be a challenge to be the first leader of this Innovate Alabama.
It was a huge challenge in terms of the fact that the train had already sort of left the station, because the organization really did get started probably about 1.5 years, 2 years before I came on board. So catching up to the train while it was moving was very, very difficult. But I think having the commission report really did set the stage and gave us the blueprint for what we needed to do for the first year. So from that perspective, it was a lot easier than just new start.
Right. Well, there's plenty of folks out there that really don't know a lot about Innovate Alabama. So when you are given the opportunity to kind of give the elevator pitch about what Innovate Alabama is, what do you say?
Well, I talk about the fact that our mission is to really position the state for the future economy. And in doing that, we're supporting entrepreneurs, we're supporting the entire ecosystem to make sure that we have access to capital, we have access to relationships, collaboration, that we really need to move our companies and our founders forward.
Yeah. What would you say were some key accomplishments over this last year? I'm asking you to brag on yourself,
Well, not just bragging on myself, I'll brag on the team, because I think the team really did do a really Herculean job to get some of the programs rolled out. If you look at the commission report, again, they really did sort of set the foundation for what we needed to do. I would say the biggest accomplishment was what we're celebrating here tonight, the tax credit program, the network designation program, first and foremost. And then I think getting the state through the process of SSBCI and getting that application submitted to U.S. Treasury was a significant accomplishment for the team.
Okay, talk more about that. What exactly is that?
So SSBCI is a program that was established by the Biden administration to support the states in being able to support their small businesses and make sure that they were able to grow and sustain themselves during COVID. So Alabama, our portion of that program is about right around $98 million. We had to design a program that Treasury thought would, number one, fit into our ecosystem, but then number two, be able to really get that return on investment that we need to make a sustaining fund so that we could continue to fund our businesses.
Okay, so it's an application process, and that's finished.
Yes, the application is finished. And we hope to kick off distribution of those funds around, if everything goes well, in February.
Wow, okay. Well, looking into next year, it's almost New Year's season, so maybe people are setting resolutions. What are some of the goals for Innovate Alabama in 2024?
Well, certainly we want to do additional outreach with our educational institutions. We want to make sure that professors at universities are moving their inventions to commercialization, so that's a huge focus for us next year. But I would say the next really large priority for us is really engaging our rural spaces and making sure that we are designing programs that they can see themselves participating in.
There was a lot of talk earlier about the natural resources part and leveraging Alabama's trails and beaches and
waterways,
outdoor recreation, basically. It was kind of brought up in a way that's like, it surprised some people that would be considered like an economic development kind of tenet. Talk about how those discussions have gone and why that's so important to the overall mission.
Absolutely, it surprised me as well. I didn't really connect originally outdoor recreation with innovation. But I think if you look at it from the lens of talent development, talent attraction and retention, it actually does start to make sense, because really entrepreneurs, students, they don't want to just go to work and do their 9 to 5 or run their business. They want to really become a part of the community and really enjoy the resources that we have in the state. So it really is a natural fit, even though it may seem like an unnatural fit. It really does fit well.
So whether it's hiking or canoeing or climbing,
biking, climbing, all of that.
Interesting. It is interesting. Well, look, congratulations on a fantastic event. Thank you again for letting us be a part of it and for your time this evening.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Welcome to Innovate Alabama, where every day we help innovators grow roots. We are cultivating a brighter future by empowering our next generation through internships, tech showcases, and proactive programs. We encourage higher education students to embrace entrepreneurship. Sponsored programs like Fuel Alabama and the HBCU Innovation Experience highlight our state's position as a postgraduate destination. In 2024, we're focused on transforming K-12 educational opportunities and focusing on rural outreach to retain emerging talent.
We're driving innovation in Alabama through expanding access to the resources innovators need. In the last 10 months alone, we've deployed nearly $50 million through grants and tax credits to our accelerators, economic development organizations, and small businesses emerging through cutting-edge research. We're accelerating our impact by launching Alabama's largest public funding program for small businesses ever, infusing nearly $98 million statewide through the State Small Business Credit Initiative. This is a game changer for Alabama's entrepreneurial landscape.
We're leveraging our state's natural beauty to create a vibrant, diverse innovation ecosystem. We're introducing tools to connect innovators with their communities and the outdoors, ensuring an unparalleled way of life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, an innovator, or along for the ride, you will find the supportive community and the resources to thrive here. Together, we're shaping a future that's brighter, more innovative, and uniquely Alabama.
That's our show for this week and our last for the year. On behalf of our Capital Journal team, Randy Scott, John Holman, and Rod Richardson, thank you for watching Capital Journal and for trusting us to bring you the latest on what's happening inside state government. We are excited about 2024 and especially the legislative session that begins February 6th. There's no better way to keep up with the legislature than by watching Capital Journal here on Alabama Public Television. With that, Happy New Year, and we'll see you next time.